and welcome to yet another show by Dynamic CIO. My name is Muqbil Ahmar. I'm the executive editor at dynamiccio.com and Greyhead Media. Friends, first of all, I wish and hope that all of you are safe and secure. These are really uncertain times. And therefore, we are going to talk about how the pandemic is leading to an immense digitalization of enterprises and how they need to cope up with this change. Before we begin this interview and chat, let me set a small context for this talk. Today, we see that for most organizations, it's a battle for survival. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted businesses and economies in many ways that are unimaginable. Amid such inimical and volatile circumstances, it's only the innovative streak which distinguishes between the winners and the also rans. And for this, organizations globally are increasingly leveraging technology. They are digitizing to maintain business continuity, timelines, and productivity, and empowering employees with the capability to work from anywhere, anytime. In fact, organizations have to come up with unique and stellar ideas to help them not only to thrive in these difficult times, but also to grow. There is an increasing need for businesses to transform their IT infrastructure in order to survive and progress further in their digital transformation journey. Keeping this growing need in mind, today we have a very senior technology leader among us. Let me take this opportunity to introduce our guest for the day, Subram Natarajan, Chief Technology Officer at IBM India. Subram is an accomplished technical executive with rich IT leadership experience. He has a consistent track record of driving increased levels of productivity, profits, and customer satisfaction. In fact, Subram is widely recognized as a technology evangelist and change agent. He comes with 24 years of extensive experience in requirement analysis, creative problem solving, technical assessments, strategic planning, technical sales, team building, project management, staff and resource management as well. Welcome to the show, Subram.
Thank you for having me, Muqbil. It's indeed a pleasure. I hope all of us, all the family, everybody is safe.
Right. So immediately coming to you, the context that I said, and whatever we spoke about. So how do you see the digital transformation journey of organizations in a time like this? Which is particularly unpredictable, highly restrictive. In fact, there are restrictions all over the world. How do you see the landscape of this digital transformation journey?
Yeah, it's a good question, Muqbil. The COVID crisis, if you just were to look at it, stand back and look at it, it has had an impact on pretty much all of the enterprises and has touched many of our lives as well. In some ways, it has accelerated the digital transformation journeys. It has reinforced the importance of applying some of the exponential technologies to produce more efficient, effective, and flexible processes, businesses. Again, it clarified the need for leveraging the hybrid cloud infrastructure to deliver adaptive consumption of various resources that one may have. We have seen many of the main building blocks of what we call as a cognitive enterprise, and that is being stretched to a new levels of reality. That's what the pandemic has done. From a market making business platforms perspective, Muqbil, they've had to digitize even more quickly in the past 1 year than what would have normally taken about 4, 5, 6 years or so. And they also had to extend their reach into newer and wider ecosystems to develop innovative solutions and reach to the market. Secondly, I would say the intelligent workflows, also known as automation, intelligent automation, became a priority for use by many of the organizations. Extreme automation and AI are required to meet the mass customer and employee connectivity and service requirements. Lastly, I would say even some of the new definitions of experience and humanity have emerged from the need to keep customers, employees, and citizens safe and healthy. And this is this is going to be sort of the fundamental fabric change that has happened with many of the organizations, bringing the humanness within the organizations themselves. So while there are physical restrictions that we are expecting or experiencing due to the pandemic, like people are not able to go to the office, everybody is working from home. In a lot of ways, the digital world has broken those shackles, and in a way has become sort of the accelerant to all the digital transformations that we see, whether it is in retail, financial, telecom industry, distribution, you name it, pretty much across the board. There is a very significant acceleration of digital transformation, to your point, and the companies, or we are seeing a lot of investments going into this whole area of digital transformation.
Right. So, Subram, aptly put, I would say, it's not only the hybrid cloud, but also a hybrid culture, a hybrid world that we are currently observing right now in the wake of the pandemic. I would like to go back to something that you touched upon a few minutes back while you were speaking, which was about, how this massive cloudification is happening. In fact, according to many reports, a majority of the organizations have plans to significantly increase its spending on cloud services in the next 1 year. How do you see, as a technology expert, the landscape of technology adoption in the present scenario? What is your gut feeling?
So, the push for digitization has a direct impact on hybrid cloud adoption. There's a one-to-one relationship. Everywhere you look today, businesses and organizations have an acute need to increase their speed to market, increase their flexibility, agility, and continuous innovation. On this, hybrid cloud platform delivers. In fact, clients are finding that choosing hybrid cloud approach is about 2.5 times more valuable than relying on public cloud exclusively. The benefits are across many areas, Muqbil: business value acceleration, developer productivity, infrastructure cost efficiency, cost of regulatory compliance and security, and so on. We did a recent study, IBM CEO study, where we talked with a lot of customers around the world, particularly the C-suite customers. In India, nearly 6 out of 10 Indian CEOs expect cloud computing to deliver results in the next 2 to 3 years. On the AI front, which is an adjacent technology, close to about 45% of the CEOs in India expect AI, machine learning, that technology to deliver results in, again, 2 to 3 years. So we are seeing a direct impact of this shift, particularly in IBM's hybrid cloud business. So to kind of put this in perspective, our business has grown dramatically, right? Our cloud revenue topping 25 billion, up from 20% from the previous year, and accounting for nearly 37% of the total IBM revenue. So that's kind of a testament of how big a tailwind that we are having, particularly with respect to hybrid cloud.
Right. So, Subram, you spoke about, how you envisage a hybrid cloud model for the present as well as for the future. So, which means essentially it entails that, some of the organizations and enterprises will have to transition to a cloud model. So, now, what do you think? What are the major challenges that enterprises normally face, when they are trying to make this transition to a cloud infrastructure and moving away from, the on-premise infra?
Yeah, again, this is a very important question, because this is getting to the practitioners level, right?
Right.
So when one rushes to adopt cloud, there is a lot of hype around it. When one rushes to adopt cloud, the common choice one makes is to try and create an equivalency, both in terms of feature functions or in terms of configuration. So for example, if you have a certain quantum of infrastructure on-prem, the tendency is to create the equivalent capacity on cloud. But the cloud operating model is entirely different. It is pinned on the principles of pay as you go, and that too in a shared environment. That is what gives the cost arbitrage one looks for. So I have seen organizations make similar such kind of equivalency based choices around policies, security frameworks, management and monitoring principles, they don't necessarily work, right? So that is a big challenge that people face, number one. Number two, the next challenge is on distilling the total cost of ownership, TCO. And again, in a rush, people tend to really overlook the fact that, okay, I'm converting the capex to opex, and therefore I stand to benefit. But the comparisons go beyond. It has to cover network costs, costs of moving in and moving out of cloud, the year-to-year changes with costs and cost of infra as well as software. So when you put all of these things together and over a period of time horizon, the clarity of TCO emerges, right? So the challenge of making sure that you have the right kind of TCO is important. The third one is the choice of the technology itself, as well as the vendor. So when we are talking about moving to cloud, people generally jump onto their bandwagon and get into a cloud vendor lock-in kind of a situation or technology lock-in situation. In these days of modern technology, open framework-based container platform and associated tools, essentially those that give the control back to the customers, is the way to go. So, and it is a well-established fact that open architectures allow for faster innovation. And this is a much needed ingredient when customers are when organizations are trying to drive deep differentiation among their peers. Lastly, I would say the choice of partner to undertake this cloud transformation is really a big challenge or a big consideration point. More often than not, cloud transformation is a journey, and especially so if you are moving from on-prem to cloud legacy organizations. And you need to choose the right partner who has the right kind of skills, experiences, and capabilities. When you do a wrong choice here, this will lead to delays, failed projects, frustrations, and you will not be able to achieve the desired goal that you are thinking of, right? So these are some of the challenges as you start embarking on that one should pay attention to and carefully evaluate what the right options are in front of them.
Right. So Subram, you alluded to a very important point, which was about the total cost of ownership. During my own interactions with CIOs and technology leaders, I've often come across, tales of how, the rosy picture which was presented to them, initially, it gradually came to such a stage where, the total cost of ownership was went beyond what would have been there in case of the on-premise infrastructure. So, very rightly you pointed that out because initially tech leaders or organizations may take up cloudification as a knee jerk. So, according to you, it has to be a well thought out process, a well thought out decision with all the parameters properly metered in. So, coming back to you, Subram, you spoke about the various challenges that enterprises and organizations face today, vis-a-vis their journey to a cloud model. So, would you like to elaborate on how organizations can mitigate these concerns, mitigate these problems in view of this transition?
Yeah, so there is always a methodical way, and that is, if you were to really look at what IBM has as a sort of a mechanism, there is a methodical way of how you get onto a cloud. You first start understanding where you are right now and what we call as the plan phase, and then you start building it, and then you move it, and then you run it. And all of these essentially are phases which has very specific input points and outcomes, and often they are done at in a sort of a sequence, right? The idea would be it is not only enough if you develop a blueprint, but you should have the necessary wherewithals to flexibly adapt as you go along in this journey. There is always consideration of which are these applications or which are those environments when moved to cloud are going to provide the biggest benefit or biggest business impact. And then there is a cost aspect to it, right? So there is a lot of technology, business, as well as the complexity that comes in the way in really, building what I call as the cloud blueprint. That's what this plan phase is all about. And then you start doing the move phase where moving from one area, or maybe say an on-premise setup to a cloud, has to be done methodically. The architectures are different, requirements are different, security and compliance patterns are different. So how do you go through that entire process? And more often than not, a lot of tools, automated mechanisms are used to avoid human errors introduced here. And then, of course, there may be set of applications or environments where you may choose, okay, it doesn't make any sense to really port them onto cloud. Let me try to rebuild them to suit the modern requirements. That is the build phase. And then that is not enough, right? Once you have the build, once you have the cloud, everything done, you need to also worry about the day two operations. On an ongoing basis, you need to ensure how I'm going to manage cloud, establish those DevOps pipelines, and releases that come in very, very quickly, non-disruptively, so that our clients get the best of the products and services all the time. So all of this requires a fair bit of planning and a clear levels of flexibility and agility built along the way.
Right. So, Subram, one major concern that I have myself, encountered during my interactions with, technology leaders is that particularly in domains like, for example, BFSI, banking and financial, healthcare, they generally have some kind of, apprehensions about hosting their data on the cloud. So what is your take on it? How can those concerns be, reduced or addressed?
Yeah, very, very important point, Muqbil. I'm glad you asked this question. Yes, there are concerns around data security and privacy, and that's preventing organizations from moving workloads to public cloud. Particularly so if the applications are dealing with highly sensitive data, such as medical records or personal or confidential information, including financial information that you mentioned. And there may be concerns around the security that is offered by the cloud vendor themselves, and therefore organizations are choosing. So why go through this headache? Let me be in on-prem environments, right? So fundamentally, we have two choices that is present, particularly when it comes to data. First is the emergence of distributed cloud. This allows you to consume public cloud services while retaining data on-prem. Data resides where they are, but you can actually use all of the public cloud services on-prem. So this is the concept of distributed cloud. This allows customers not to worry about data moving out of the organizations and can still be protected by the governing principles of the organization. IBM's cloud satellite is a great example of distributed cloud where you can use data services, AI services, database services from public cloud, but data still remains intact on-prem. So that is one clear way technology solution to it. Second is there are, as we started speaking about the data residency, data moving to public cloud and stuff like that, cloud providers also started working on beefing up the security features on public cloud. We can leverage some of the security features that are being built on public cloud. IBM, for one, has built a specific cloud for some of these kind of requirements, highly secure cloud for highly regulated enterprises such as telecom and financial services, where the requirements of that industry, the regulatory requirements, security requirements, data privacy requirements of that industry is addressed in this cloud, right? The telco cloud or the banking cloud that I was talking about. Such kind of industry cloud platforms, what they do is they address the uniqueness in the regulatory and modernization requirements for that specific industry, and they use sophisticated encryption technologies to allow our clients to say, most highly regulated industries, how do you derive the benefits of cloud at the same time be safe with your data, right? For example, as part of the zero trust offering that IBM has, both on-prem as well as in public cloud, there is a feature called Keep Your Own Key, KYOK. And this technology allows the owner of the data to retain the keys, encryption keys. So as a cloud provider, even IBM cannot have access to the data. So such kind of evolution that is happening, and we are continuing to invest in developing newer technologies, particularly around the security area. The whole realms around how do you do homomorphic encryption. This is a new area that is coming up. While there is data at rest protection, data in flight protection, what was exposed is during computation, how do you protect? That is the whole concept of bringing encryption and protection all through the cycle of how data is generated to how the data is being put, residing. So a lot of changes are happening, and a lot of these features are really helping customers to kind of be at ease a little bit. To start with, they could go with distributed cloud. And when the public cloud gives them enough comfort level, they can move to public cloud also. So technology today allows that.
Right. Uh, Keep your own data. I think that is a fabulous concept and a fabulous step that you guys have taken. Very good. So, Subram, my next question is, you have dwelt at length on, hybrid cloud. So, what are the various ways in which intelligence-driven hybrid cloud can be leveraged to help enterprises increase efficiency, speed, and agility?
Yeah, see, the way I look at it, it's actually the confluence that brings the biggest benefit. The confluence of next gen technologies. I think it is presenting us a unique opportunity for all of us to build efficiency at scales we have not seen before. Hybrid cloud, when you combine with automation and AI, can deliver a range of important benefits from increased flexibility, speed, agility, and of course, not to talk about scale. There is apart from shift in the cost model, which is very evident in the, like capex to opex and so on. What we are also seeing is that the driving forces of change today is well understood by enterprises, and pandemic has only accelerated that whole transformation journey. The phenomenon of data and the value of cloud, the scaling of artificial intelligence has now become the core of companies' strategy, if you will, as they start going through the digital transformation. Now, when you talk about the cloud services, there is actually dozens of options here, right? I can name a few of them, and I'm pretty sure this is not a comprehensive list. The applications today that are connecting homebound workers to collaborative tools that enable business continuity. That is a great example of how cloud is working on it. Cloud-based support for video conferencing, file sharing services, communication platforms, chat bots, the host of data analytics and data services solutions, accounting software, accounting services, HR functions. I can go on and name multiple functions. All of these are now becoming part and parcel of what cloud services, a well-behaved cloud services provider can provide. Right? So it's like same in a similar way, India being a big development house, remote developers can continue writing code and building applications and get them supported on cloud native containerized environments while building the AI and internal customer facing applications. So, all around, I see the levels of applications of cloud services is just exploding and continuing to do so in that trajectory. You are on mute.
So, Subram, you have essentially spoken about how cloud forms and the fulcrum of the digital transformation journey for enterprises and organizations. That point is taken. In this direction, how is IBM helping uh, organizations, drive this infrastructure modernizations? It would be great if you could elaborate on some of your own solutions.
Absolutely. I think the key is to consider two main aspects of this, right? One of them I alluded to a little bit earlier, but if you look at the variety of solutions that we can have, from a platform perspective, we have our infrastructure platforms, the mainframe, power series, and storage hardware and associated software. All of these form the bedrock of building the infrastructure that allows you to build hybrid cloud as a platform. They'll give a new level of enterprise class performance, reliability, and flexibility, all of what is required for building a cloud infrastructure. And so much so, they are becoming the de facto platform for building any cloud native architectures at enterprise scale and with security. And, and by the way, all of these have close affinity to Red Hat. So a modernized container environment comes naturally to these platforms. The entirety of hardware portfolio is designed with the target of infrastructure as a code, software defined environments. And this is the target architecture. This helps in building feature functions that allow hardware to be highly flexible, open, and by the way, not to forget security. And all of this is software defined, which is the fundamental requirement of defining how cloud native infrastructure should behave. Now, all of these are made possible without compromising on the basic DNA, which is performance, scalability, and reliability. All of these are fundamental part of our IBM's platform. The second offering that IBM has is more to do with the services part. We talked about it a little bit earlier. As you start building the cloud journey, it definitely helps to think about it in methodical steps. In IBM, we call this as a journey to hybrid cloud. It comprises of 4 distinct functions that I was talking to you about, essentially executed in sequence. You start doing the advice function, where you start building the strategy part and to kind of describe how the cloud movement can actually happen. And the move part is when you know the end state, the target architecture. How are you going to move from here to that? It just lists out the blueprint for that. And the next one is the build part. I was talking about how to build applications and modify applications to cloud native environments. And lastly, to do the management. Now, all of these services are offered as part of our journey to hybrid cloud service. So from an IBM perspective, both from the infrastructure and associated software, you also have the consulting as well as the delivery business, which kind of takes the customer from wherever they are in their cloud journey to the target architecture to realize the biggest of business impacts.
Right. So Subram, now I come to the last question of this interview, and I would like to digress a little from the general theme of the conversation that we have had till now. So we have spoken about cloud being the central piece, so as to say, of digital transformation journey. So now coming more towards your own thoughts. I mean, you are a technology leader in your own right. So how do you see, what are the various trends? What are the various major technology trends that you currently see, in the landscape?
Yeah, from my vantage point, I would say there are 6 areas, and all of these I am seeing them build traction in their own way. Earlier, I was talking about the confluence, and that is going to be the biggest catalyst, if you will, to really make all of these change that I'm about to say happen. Right. So first is the digital transformation adoption. And there's going to be increased focus on operational agility, efficiency, and above all, resiliency. Remember, the wave 1 and wave 2 has clearly indicated to us that businesses need to build enormous amount of resiliency in their infrastructure. So there is going to be focus on that in this digital transformation, number 1. Number 2, decision making at lightning speed. So, what essentially this means is that how do you use data and analytics insights sort of in a real time in every one of the business journeys and transactions that you do with products or services to the customer. The third thing is, because of the increased digital presence that every company is having to go through, the surface area of attack has increased for cyber attackers, hackers. So maintaining strong security posture will become sort of a board discussion now, not only just IT will become the centerpiece now. Fourth, we also feel that the whole sense of connected economy will become the key ingredient for innovation. The ecosystem partnerships, whether it is within the company and the partners, or sometimes with customers themselves in co-developing solutions, cross-industry collaboration. And that's where the whole marketplace economy came in. And this will become very important, not only to succeed, but to survive. So this will become a big change. Next one is skilling. So one of the things that I keep telling my team is that in this whole pandemic time, skilling will have to be an integral part of the roles and responsibility that we all carry, and businesses will have to go through the same things as well, right? This will become the necessary piece for the economic success in the new normal time, right? And perhaps the last one is coming from the biggest learning that we've had in the wave 2 of the pandemic, Muqbil. And this is the human element I talked about earlier. We will see a rise in technology adoption to drive automation and connect better with employees and customers. Employees will augment their focus on mental health, well-being, and skills development, and essentially the workforce development. And in that process, we will discover innovative ways to lead, engage them, and inspire them along the way. So those are the 6 trends that I see companies take as their core set of areas to focus on.
Right. So, Subram, thank you for this wonderfully insightful discussion. You have touched, on a host of subjects which are, which are very relevant to the present times. You've spoken about the various challenges that organizations currently face vis-a-vis their digital transformation journey and what can they do to mitigate them. So, a lot of points you spoke about, including some of the ones which stay in my memory, is about the total cost of ownership, choosing the right partners, distributed cloud, software defined, and all of that. And to sum it up with something like, the hybrid model of IT infrastructure is here to stay. So thanks a lot, Subram. It has been a wonderfully insightful discussion. In the interest of time, we need to wrap this up. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day ahead.
A pleasure is mine, Muqbil. Thank you for having me. Have a great day ahead.
You too.